Why did my boyfriend drive off with me hanging out the car? You're being too dramatic, he yelled as I clung on. After an argument over a nighttime accident, he found it easier to blame me than admit he lost control. Can we save our relationship before it spirals further? I truly need some relationship guidance. I feel as though I am continuously going in circles with my boyfriend without any progress. I will provide an explanation of what occurred today for context, but our disagreements and arguments typically follow a similar pattern more or less, and I am unsure how to proceed. I recognize that many people may readily suggest breaking up, but I would prefer to attempt some healthy communication techniques before resorting to that if possible. Nonetheless, I will consider all advice. I tend to experience very distressing nightmares that often result in me waking up in a state of panic. My boyfriend is aware of this. This morning, I woke up feeling upset and quite frantic after having a nightmare. My boyfriend got out of bed almost immediately after I awoke and appeared to be in a very bad mood, storming around, throwing things down, speaking to me in two-word sentences. I inquired about what was wrong. He ignored me several times when I mentioned that something seemed off and asked if he was upset about anything. On the fourth or fifth time, he finally informed me that I had elbowed him in the face while I was asleep, and he was upset with me. His tone of voice was different from usual, and he glared at me as he said this, indicating that he was genuinely annoyed. I explained that I was asleep and did not remember doing that, and I mentioned that I had been having nightmares which may have caused me to lash out in my sleep. I thought the matter was resolved after I acknowledged his feelings, apologized, and expressed that I had not intended to hurt him. However, he spent the rest of the morning remaining annoyed with me, snapping at me over minor issues and speaking to me in an irritated tone. He hardly looked at me all morning, aside from reprimanding me. When we arrived at my house about 30 minutes later, he was dropping me off in my car since his is broken. The conversation resumed. He expressed that he was upset because I had elbowed him in the face and claimed I had also kicked him twice during the night. I apologized and stated that I had not meant to do so while I was asleep and had not even realized I had done it. He accused me of not listening and became increasingly annoyed. I also became frustrated as I expressed that while it was understandable for him to be upset about being elbowed in the face, it was an accident and I was unsure what else to say other than sorry. He then stated that his issue was not with me elbowing him, but rather with my reaction when he told me about it. He felt I dismissed his feelings by explaining that I was asleep and that I had interrupted him. I admitted that I understood why that might be frustrating and apologized, but I also expressed that I did not like how he became so angry, raised his voice, and stonewalled me before I even had a chance to respond. I conveyed that he was justified in being upset about the situation, but the way he was directing his anger at me felt inappropriate since I had not intended to harm him. Unfortunately, things escalated from there. He asserted that he had never raised his voice when telling me I had elbowed him, claiming I was the one shouting at him and being defensive and dismissive. I apologized for hurting his feelings. He insisted that I was not listening to him as always, told me that my reaction to his expressing his upset was dramatic, and accused me of not taking responsibility. I listened to all of this, clarified when I was uncertain, and then reiterated my regret that he was hurt by the situation. However, when I attempted to express again that I felt his stonewalling, raised voice, and excessive anger over an accident were unfair, I requested that he try to calm down so we could have a constructive conversation where we could understand each other's perspectives. He completely ignored everything I mentioned regarding his behavior and continued to list my faults while denying that he had been angry or raised his voice. I distinctly recall that he did, and that was before I even responded. Yet he claimed he only raised his voice because I shouted back at him, which I do not believe I did. It reached a point where I felt he was going in circles and refusing to accept my apologies, which I had offered multiple times. He accused me of not listening, even though I had sat and listened to every point he made and stated that I understood. I was unsure how else to respond, and he was only becoming angrier with me. Ultimately, I regretfully told him it was unjust to hold an accident against me since I had not meant to hurt him, and when he yelled at me, accusing me of interrupting him and dismissing his feelings, I exclaimed, "I was having terrible nightmares and hit you by accident while I was sleeping. I do not know what else to say." I then exited the car to go into my house. I recognized that I should have resolved the discussion before leaving, but it was becoming increasingly heated, and I felt trapped in that situation without resolution. He followed me, grabbed my arm, and yelled, "Oh, so you can just walk away now because you are upset." I pulled my arm away and said, "Do not touch me like that," and he responded with, "Go F yourself." He attempted to re-enter my car, but I insisted he should not be driving when he was this angry and asked him to exit the vehicle, as I did not want him damaging my car in that state. He tends to drive recklessly when upset. His workplace is a 10-minute walk from my house, so I did not leave him stranded. I felt justified in this decision since it is my car, and I did not believe he would treat it responsibly in his current state. He then attempted to drive off after I repeatedly asked him to leave my car with me and walk to work. I got into the passenger seat with the door wide open and requested my keys. He drove off with my leg hanging out of the door without a seat belt and subsequently stalled the vehicle, causing me to fly off the seat and hit my head on the windshield. I then had to reach over and physically take my keys back from the ignition while he fought against me screaming, "Let me go to Fing work, call the police if you must, but I am taking the car." Ultimately, I retrieved the keys and instructed him to leave. He yelled at me in the middle of the parking lot, accusing me of needing to calm down, stating that I never listened to him, and claiming that I had escalated the situation by interrupting him and dismissing him. He called me a hypocrite and accused me of employing double standards. I told him not to shout at me and he rushed back to the car, prompting me to lock myself inside out of fear. He was pulling on the door while shouting at me. He then walked away, shouting, "I am not Fing talking to you, go F yourself." At this point, I sat in the car crying while he yelled at me from outside with all the neighbors observing. He then texted me as he walked away, stating that I had yelled at him, did not listen to him, walked away from him, and was a massive hypocrite employing double standards. I conveyed that I was unsure about continuing the relationship due to how he endangered me by driving off with me hanging out of the passenger side, but he claimed he did not know I was in the car. I told him I was sorry for my role in escalating the situation, but he also could not yell, scream, or raise his voice at me. He insisted he never did that, and I confronted him about the gaslighting. He then accused me of gaslighting and manipulating him. I understand that I have made mistakes in this situation, but during our arguments I am always the one making significant efforts to apologize and improve my behavior while he remains passive, asserting, "I did not do that, you did," or responding, "I only behaved that way because you did this." It feels like constant deflection, which I have mentioned before, but he has stated that this is not true or fair to him. I feel as though I am speaking to a brick wall. Whatever I say or do, even if I listen to him, express understanding and apologize, he is never satisfied and continues until I become upset, after which he is angry with me for being distressed. He claims I interrupt him, but this is only because he fails to acknowledge my point and reverts back to, "Well, you have done this wrong," rather than admitting what I am trying to express, even though I continually validate his feelings. I desire to foster healthy communication, but I am unsure what more I can do. We have a pleasant relationship, having been together for only a few months, and this is our first significant argument that we have not been able to resolve. It stemmed from an accident that occurred while I was asleep. Aside from this conflict, the majority of our relationship has been wonderful. Our arguments consistently follow the same pattern in my view. I take responsibility for my actions, apologize, and indicate my willingness to work on the issues he brings up. But when I do the same regarding his behavior, he asserts that he never did that, claiming it is unfair for me to suggest such things or accusing me of interrupting or disregarding his feelings. He simply will not consider looking inward to assess how his actions could be contributing to the escalation, while I feel I am constantly doing that. Even when I implored him to discuss with his therapist how I feel, he refused, saying, "I have already worked on myself, now you must do the same." When I have raised this concern with him, he dismisses it again, saying it is not true and that he is doing all the work while I am constantly creating issues and refusing to address my behavior. He insists that he does not feel this way and that I am merely assuming his intentions and becoming upset. I do not know what to do. I am simply unable to convey my point, irrespective of how many different approaches I take. I feel as though I am hitting a wall, but I love this man deeply and just want to have a safe space to voice my concerns without the situation escalating like this. I apologize for the length of this message. How can I enhance our communication? How can I help him understand that he is not communicating effectively either, without all blame being placed on me for my mistakes? How can I articulate my points without him perceiving it as a personal attack? Story 2. Dating a coworker seemed great until I felt like I was spoiling his holiday by simply wanting my space. "You aren't going to marry me, right?" he asked as I sensed the love bombing. Now I'm left questioning, am I the crazy villain or just protecting myself? I will begin by stating that yes, people often say never eat where you work, also known as never date a coworker. When I 21 years old female began my employment at this company, I was completely avoiding dating. I had not really ever dated much anyway, but considering the nature of men around our age in large organizations, I was cautious. Honestly, I wasn't interested in anything because I knew everyone was essentially just looking for a good time and so on. So events unfolded. I was introduced to a colleague, 25 years old male, through another colleague, 23 years old female. It began as merely a casual, lengthy conversation on a day when the office was nearly empty. We work on Saturdays, and everyone essentially skipped that day because it was the first of the month. Eventually, when she and I were alone together, she informed me that he had feelings for me. I thought okay, but by that time, everyone I was friends with, two other female colleagues, already understood the situation. If anyone asks, I am not single. I wish to avoid unnecessary drama. However, I started talking to him and felt that we got along quite well. He asked me out on a casual date, and we simply had drinks at a cafe and conversed for about 2 hours, sharing a few stories and laughs. I was uncertain about whether or not I liked him, and it was too early to tell since we had only seen each other at work. We began hanging out more during work breaks and occasionally even after work again, sticking to casual coffee dates, when he confessed that he had liked me for a considerable time, much longer than I had been aware of him. Eventually, I gradually realized that perhaps I should stop being so reclusive and allow myself to experience something fun for once, as I struggle with anxiety and ADHD. Things were going reasonably well for a while, but I felt like everything progressed too quickly. We were in the talking stage, yet I would see him 6 days a week, and he would call me on our way home from work every day. It didn't feel entirely pleasant for me, but I thought I was avoiding something normal because my past experiences with other brief relationships involved avoidance and neglect. I tend to subconsciously suppress my emotions, making it challenging to gauge how I truly feel. Thus, I often feel quite numb inside. This continued for over a month, and by that time, everyone we worked with had essentially discovered our situation and began making jokes about marriage or teasing us. While I typically do not concern myself with such things, I realized that I might have been convincing myself that everything was okay and normal when in reality it was not. He has admitted to possessing an ego and has sought validation multiple times, often not allowing me the chance to agree that an outfit looks good or that something like sunglasses suits him. He just immediately states, "Oh, they don't, right? Like I'm unattractive." And I recognize an insecure person when I see one, so I have reassured him that he looks good. However, it eventually began to feel forced since I felt as if I was being compelled to affirm him. He also says things like, "What I could do for you no other man has, and I know for certain that you will regret it one day and miss me," which left me bewildered. The only conclusion I can draw is that ignoring the small things is unwise. I am not sure if I am simply being overly critical or if there is an underlying issue that could serve as a red flag in the future. Fast forward to recently, we had a long weekend approaching, and he planned on taking me out to the beach and then for a staycation. We are not officially dating. We have only been getting to know each other for just over a month, and he attempted to persuade me to go on a staycation, suggesting it would be fun. I thought it might be, but I remained hesitant. One thing about me is, if I do not want to do something, my body will physically reject it to the extent that I must speak up and remove myself from the situation. So I texted him, explaining that I simply was not up for a staycation, and he responded, "Okay, let's at least go out then and see where the night takes us. If you prefer, we can stay somewhere or you can go home." At this point, my entire mood was thoroughly ruined, and I did not want to go anywhere at all. Then our female colleague, 23 years old female, who claims to be his best friend, texted me asking, "Oh, you and are together, right? So what's the problem? You can just go out and talk." When I initially conveyed to him that I did not want to go, he asked, "Why?" and stated, "Why are you ruining my holiday?" I simply did not want to go. I was not feeling up to it. I told her precisely that, and she responded, "I called him and he is in a bad mood now." I questioned why I should be responsible for someone else's reaction to something. His mood should never depend on me. He is his own person. I told her that his mood should not be contingent upon mine, and all she said was, "But it is, you know it is, right?" I had been feeling a slow building pressure to be something I was not, and it was not until I paused to reflect that I realized he was somewhat love-bombing me. He continually mentioned that I was his priority now, how he needed to focus on me and protect those he cared about. And sure, that's sweet, but that should come after you have known someone for a decent length of time, at least 6 months, right? He had also used the term love a few times, not directed at me but within context. For example, "I take care of the people I love," etc. After I shared my concerns regarding what was occurring between us via text, he brushed it off, stating, "You have your whole life, you are not going to marry me, right? And why are you overthinking this?" Whenever I expressed my stress about specific problems I was facing, he consistently presumed the issues stemmed from either him or work. No, people face larger, deeper problems in their lives. We contend with issues like mental health, yet he seemed unable to comprehend that. I tried to explain my anxiety to him, and he gave me a list of trivial reasons that all seemed to revolve around my relationship with him or my family. Regardless, our mutual colleague attempted to persuade me to go, and I grew irritated because she insinuated that since I was out the previous day, I should be able to spend time with my family, yet now I was suddenly too tired to go on a date. How is that anyone's business? My mood has been low these past few days, and I have lacked the energy to do much outside of one family gathering over the weekend and one short road trip and dinner with my brother and mother the following day. What should I do about this man? I genuinely need advice because I am uncertain whether I am the unreasonable villain in this situation or if my feelings are valid. My question is, should I attempt to communicate this to him properly again? Or would it be better to end things entirely and concentrate on work and my social life? In summary, I began seeing my coworker and have started noticing minor things that could potentially be red flags. I am confused and wonder if I am overthinking the situation.